Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. I was an immigrant to Canada. My family came, I was born on August 1st, 1969. The Troubles in Ireland started August 12th. And so my family decided that we would come to Canada. My dad was a young graduate from university, as was my mom. And my parents were really passionate about the iron and steel industry. So they came to Canada to pursue their dreams of getting involved in the iron and steel industry. And they were very successful. My mom was really good at ironing, and my dad was really good at steeling. Okay, thank you for the polite laugh, but okay, we'll get down to business. Our business is quite simple. We make products that people have to consume in a really lousy economy, in a wonderful economy. We make a series of products for animal health, in absorbents, and these are products that have no chemicals in them, no harmful, they're natural clays. And we use the cash flow from that base business to generate new products for future cash flow. I went past the legal. If anybody wants a copy of the forward-looking statement, I can print it for you. I'm not going to spend any time reading it. So, who we are, we make products for a healthy planet. We have a core business that generates cash flow to build shareholder equity now and fund innovation for future cash flow. So sort of like this Maslow hierarchy triangle here we have. We got this vertically integrated manufacturing for cash flow. And then the innovation that we are working on right now is cement replacement. There is a very strong move in industry to decarbonize. The production of Portland cement currently accounts for 7% of annual CO2 emissions from human cause. All of the products that we make are from one of four silicates. A lot of people would say to me, what is your business? You're making cat litter for Costco. You're in every Canadian Tire in Canada, but you're developing stuff with glass. And I had a hard time for years defining I understood who we are, but I couldn't articulate it. But in essence, everything we do is some form of a silicate. And those include diatomaceous earth, that's an aluminosilicate for any geologists in the room. Bentonite clay is an aluminosilicate. Natural pozzolans are aluminosilicates. And then waste glass, those are sodium silicates. And we focus on what we know, silicates. This legacy business funds the innovation. So it fuels innovative solutions like Pozglass that solve problems and meet demand. So Progressive Planet bought Absorbent Products in February of 2022. There's some very bright people in that organization. The company started in 1989, started making Wondercat cat litter in 1989. Been in the same physical location for over 30 years in Kamloops at the Mount Paul Industrial Park. But the first innovation was an ag tech innovation, and the team, nothing to do with myself, developed an ag tech product called Activated Barn Fresh. And you'll see it on the right there. And that has a patent in the US until November of 2033. And it is a combination of diatomaceous earth, which we quarry near Kamloops, as well as animal feed additive food grade citric acid. And it neutralizes the formation of ammonia in chicken barns. Now, why would that be a problem? Well, in Canada, meat birds, so broiler houses, a chick from putting them on the floor to a harvest of a fully mature adult chicken used as a meat bird is 8 weeks. So you have 6.5 turns on a broiler house And in each case, the CFIA requires that you scrape all of the bedding, the excrement, and the wood chips and sanitize your floor after each turn. In the US, there's no such regulation. You can have 5 years of chicken manure, and those chickens, even organic chickens, can walk on that for 5 years. We can only imagine the smell of the ammonia. So chickens, they secrete uric acid, and that converts enzymatically into ammonia. So this product stops the formation of ammonia. So about 100 million chickens a year walk on activated burn fresh. And this is a product that we developed, patented before we bought the company, and it is a very significant part of our sales, and we have a patent on it until November of 2033. Recently, we've introduced a retail version of that, and it is one of our fastest growing, and it's called Fresh Coop Dust Bath. There's a slightly lower amount of the citric acid in it, and it is a backyard chicken amendment that you add, and we are seeing really, really strong sales of it on Amazon. We don't do anything B2C. We only do B2B, but we hired a fulfillment house about a year ago in the US, and they have 7 distribution centers, and they only sell through Amazon, and they order full truckloads of products from us and then sell direct B2C. So we are seeing significant growth in our business by supplying and partnering with a B2B provider, B2C provider. We're B2B to them, they're B2C to the consumer. When we first bought Absorbent, we were actually doing fulfillment in-house and sending individual packages on Amazon. We were losing a lot of money. I shut it down, and we've got a much more successful relationship today. So we actually, I think if I go back here, if you look up, we say fuel innovation solutions that solve problems and meet market demand. So what is a big problem we have today? I mentioned that 7% of global warming is the production of Portland cement. 7% of global warming is also production of steel. And so there are several things that we do that contribute significant amounts of pollution into the air. I don't have the bandwidth to try to solve every problem. The older they get, I try to do less things better than to try and do a whole bunch of things. So we can't help with steel, that's somebody else's problem. There is a company here that's addressing that, Char Technologies, doing some interesting stuff. I'm not a shareholder, I'm just bringing that up as, there are other companies addressing other significant challenges that we have. We've chosen to address reducing the carbon footprint in the production of Portland cement. And it's a very simple chemical equation. When you take limestone, and if you put 1,000 kilos of limestone into a cement kiln and heat it up to 900 Celsius, as it exits the other end, you get 560 kilos of calcium oxide and 440 kilos of CO2. So you have a solid rock, there's no liquid, so it's a solid to gas phase change. 44% of the weight of limestone, or calcium carbonate, which is the chemical name for limestone, off gases when heated to 900, and that is how we make cement. Well, how do you get to 900 C? You burn a whole bunch of hydrocarbons. So the rule of thumb is to produce 1 ton or 1,000 kilos of Portland cement, you generally create about 900 kilos of CO2. If you switch from a calcium carbonate or a limestone into a silica, it does not off-gas when it heats. So the Romans figured this out when they scraped the ashes from the hillsides and combined that with their cooked lime to build the Pantheon and to build the Colosseum. They created Roman concrete, so they were actually certainly weren't aware of the carbon footprint, but they built a better. So you actually build a stronger concrete that lasts for centuries when you introduce silica. So what we are doing with Paz Glass is we're introducing silica, but the silica is produced from glass. And so problem number 1, cement production. And problem number 2, landfills are filling up with glass. Trevor, just yell at me if I'm getting close to time here. So what's our value proposition? With pause glass, we got a triple bottom line. It's good for society. We lower emissions and cut CO2. It's a circular economy. An enormous amount of energy is put into melting crystalline silica, beach sand, or quartz, to melt it into amorphous silica or glass. And then if we throw that into a landfill after embedding all of that energy, it's a waste. But there's also a profit. Glass is very heavy, and everything that goes into any landfill in North America or anywhere, you go over a scale and pay by weight. So glass is about 2.2 times the density of water. So when you're throwing out this very heavy material with all this embedded energy that makes really great concrete, it's not good business. So you can charge a tip fee to accept glass as a resource. Normally when you mine, you have a cost of mining, so many dollars per ton. And anybody in the mining business understands the cost of extraction. When you accept an urban waste and take a tip fee, you have the opposite. Instead of a cost, you get a revenue. So there's a revenue associated with accepting something that you will pay to dispose of in a landfill. Not only is there this triple benefit, but glass as a whole has about 15% of sodium in it. And sodium carbonate is a very weak mineral. From a Mohs hardness, it has about a Mohs hardness of 1.5 on a scale of 1, and a diamond is a 10. You can crumble sodium carbonate with your hands, you can scrape it with your fingernail. So sodium is added to silica because it reduces the melting point by about 500 degrees Celsius. So everywhere in the world, the recipe for soda lime glass, every time you pick up a glass and you drink from it, you're drinking from something called soda lime glass. And it's essentially about 75% silica, about 15% sodium carbonate, and about 10% calcium carbonate or limestone. So as you grind that up, and glass has been an accepted building material since 2020 in the US under ASTM standards, in Canada under CSA, Canadian Standards Association, or in Europe under ISO. We all hear of ISO 14000, ISO 9000. So ISO, ASTM, and CSA all have specifications for replacing Portland cement with ground glass pozzolan. But this glass is dry ground. The novelty of what we discovered is that if you grind the glass in water, it reduces this sodium. All cement particles, they do not dissolve, they're just surface active. So they sit in suspension. So we remove the sodium, and with the removal of the sodium, it is a much stronger cement particle. And then this wastewater that we get from it, we bubble CO2 into that, and we make limestone again. So we're reversing the process of making traditional cement, taking a gas and making a solid, while we create a material that makes essentially new Roman concrete. So this slide here shows something that sodium in glass can cause something called concrete cancer or alkali silica reactivity. And the line at the top is a mortar bar expansion. So we had an accredited lab from one of the biggest cement companies in the world, and we gave them pause glass where the average particle size was 6 microns and the average particle size was 10 microns, dry ground and wet ground. The figure on the left is 30% replacement, and the figure on the right is 40% replacement of pause glass and traditional ground glass pozzolan for 40% or 30% and 40% of cement, and then we subjected it to a very, very harsh alkali environment and forced the expansion of the mortar bar, forced this concrete cancer. So in the left, you'll see that the traditional ground glass pozzolan, one of the two failed. It expanded more than 0.1% and one of them passed, but then the 6 and 10 of the pause glass both had significantly less. On the right with 40%, everybody passed. But in each case, the 6-micron pause glass had 500% less mortar bar expansion, so it mitigated the formation of concrete cancer, or ASR, 5 times more effectively for both 40% and 30%. So we have a better mousetrap that we developed by wet grinding. Sorry. The market is starting to recognize. Dr. Doug Brown, we put a press release out. Dr. Brown, are you here? Can you stand up and everybody can see the latest edition? I am so proud. Dr. Brown has been a part-time consultant, advisory board member since May 2020. I met him in 2018. I dropped off a pozzolan sample in the back of my pickup to his company in Calgary. A shareholder of our company told me about this startup, and he officially became our CTO 2 days ago, and we are opening a new cement lab in Calgary. Dr. Brown was a founding employee of the biggest unicorn in carbon capture in Canadian history. He was one of the 5 employees of Carbon Engineering Group. It was a startup out of University of Calgary. Doug's got a PhD in material science from the University of Calgary. One of his professors, David Keith, a former Harvard professor, founded Carbon Engineering, and one of Warren Buffett's oil companies, Occidental Petroleum, bought it for $1.6 billion 2 years ago. I managed to get Doug off a beach in Thailand and tell him he needs to work again, and he joined us, and we're real proud to have him. Also have one of our directors here today, Randy Gu. Randy, can you stand and everybody see you? 35 years with Lafarge, so we've got some excellent experience. The gentleman next to him, Chris Halseybrand. Chris, can you stand? And Chris and I worked in corporate restructuring and valuations back in 2006 with a big accounting firm in downtown Vancouver, and Chris is our CFO. He's a chartered business valuator and a CPA. We're starting to get recognition. We've won 3 significant awards. This award we won last Thursday. There were 7 finalists, including some of the biggest companies in the world. Petronas, BASF, Savante were 3. Progressive Planet won carbon capture, utilization, and storage technology of the year against some of these global giants. And so Doug thinks that, basically as soon as he joins, we'll just win awards every week. And so I don't know what we're going to do next week, but that was what we did last week for him. So we're starting to get recognition. I want to talk about the total addressable market. These are not small markets. So you can read the figures here, and I'm going to sort of give you some just other figures. With the rapid increase of very intense weather systems, there are places now that you can no longer build and get insurance. If you want to build a home in Florida, your insurance, there's a $50,000 deductible because they know if your roof blows off, it's going to be $50,000. So any insurance for a house in Florida, you're looking at a $50,000 deductible. In California, many of these insurers are left. You have a stick frame construction house, so it's 2x6s with plywood sheathing. You can't build them again because they burn down. So you can't get insurance to rebuild stick frame in various parts. So in 2011, there were 62 million tons of Portland cement produced in the USA. In 2021, 10 years later, there were 92 million. So this product that we are making more and more of, producing 7% of global warming, or 7% of the gases that we add, incremental gases. We need it because concrete structures don't blow down and they don't burn. At the same time, all of the top cement companies in the world are looking to go towards net zero by 2050 in their carbon. So if you look at the size of these markets, you can see them for yourself. And then if you look at fly ash and pozzolan, so those are the cement additives that replace Portland, weight for weight, you'll see that these are significant multi-billion-dollar numbers. We've secured a lot of non-dilutive funding. So since January of this year, we have announced $7.6 million of financing, and we pay income tax on grants as if it were revenue, but the net effect is that the rest of that goes straight to your balance sheet to shareholder equity. And so the best way that I can add value quickly while growing the company is to continue to procure non-dilutive funding, grant funding as we grow. Dr. Brown has, for 3 companies in the last 4 years, successfully had over 15 million of grants. In the news release I said 10, but he showed me and double checked. It's actually over 15 that he has procured. Doug was the co-author of the 4.6 million and the 1.56 million that we received from SDTC Canada and the BC Innovative Clean Energy Fund. Since we did that, in the last 2 weeks, we announced 1.9 million in grants from Fortis. They are not for Pawsglass. So natural gas utilities are incentivized to reduce the consumption of natural gas by industrial users. In 2013, Absorbent, before we owned that company, you hire an engineering firm, the independent firm conducts a study, and then if they come with recommendations for improvements, the utility will pay 75% of the study and then fund a portion. So Absorbent got $550,000 to enhance the productivity of their natural gas burner in 2013. In 2024, we engaged in a study again. We utilized a very reputable, successful engineering firm called Pinevo. Pinevo wrote a report. They identified 3 different opportunities for us to reduce the amount of natural gas that we consume. And we were notified that we received 1.9 million of approvals. We have to spend 2.6 million to get 1.9 in refunds, and we have commenced with all 3 of those projects. So these have significantly reduced our consumption of natural gas, which is good for us as a citizen of the world. We're emitting less CO2 but it's also good for the shareholders because our utility bills will be lower every month. Pawsglass, a partnership for scalable cement. We have a partner with the biggest cement company in the world. 5 minutes left? Okay, thank you. They're now called Amrise. Lafarge, a Swiss company, did a stock dividend 1-for-1 for every share you owned in the global company. You received a share of the North American operations, and it is now referred to as Amrise. They're committed to buy all the Pawsglass from our pilot. I have a shareholder update news release, which is being approved by SDTC Canada. As part of the grant funding, they have to approve. We have a very detailed shareholder update that we will release either on Thursday of this week or at some point next week, depending when we get the approval of our granting agencies, that will give a very detailed update on where we are with our Pawsglass pilot plant. After the pilot plant, there's no more money. We intend to sell royalty-based, we intend to have other people place these plants at the cement kiln and harvest the CO2 from and then create the product for blending on site. There's approximately 2,600 cement plants globally outside of China. Intellectual property update. We grow our IP every quarter. We invest small sums in new product development. We don't talk about products under development until we have proof of market demand. IP is a massive part of our culture due to the influence of our largest shareholder, my partner and co-founder, David Richardson, and myself. We've been developing IP in the private sector since 2010. Mr. Richardson has over 40 patents. I'm the primary author of 2 on Pawsglass. Dr. Brown has over a dozen patents as well. We have a very innovative culture. Some of the catalysts for growth. Lightweight cat litter. We have never produced lightweight in all of our years, and we recently licensed from a much, much larger international company out of the US a technology that allows our very light diatomaceous earth to clump when it gets wet. So bentonite clay, we've been making clumping cat litter since 1989, but it weighs 70 pounds a cubic foot, and it's very heavy, and we can't sell it economically sort of past Manitoba. Our diatomaceous earth is half that weight, but it doesn't clump. So we've successfully licensed, and we will be making a private label cat litter for one of the biggest retail organizations in Western Canada starting in November. And this is just an example, and it's also a feel-good story. You have the same effective, useful product with half the weight. So you can deliver a whole bunch more value to your customer burning the same amount of diesel in that truck. So we're very happy about some of these new growth opportunities. This is one. No small cap story is perfect. We have seen a rise in nationalism and in geopolitical risk. We believe long term we need to have production in the US for the US. 63% of our sales are in the US. And we have a long-term vision involving sourcing minerals and glass in the US for sales of product in the US, and sourcing, I see it says souring here, but it should be sourcing minerals and glass in Canada for sales in Canada. And we have 35 years of mineral processing experience and an existing US customer base. These are highlights. I'm not going to go through them all. This was in our news release, but we've been generating significant increased gross margin. When we bought the business, Absorbent Products, the first quarter that we reported, we had a gross margin in the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2022. We had 73 days where we had the business. We bought it February 18th, and we had gross margins of 12.7. Last quarter, we reported 38.5. It's a whole lot of hard work and making sure that we keep our fixed costs fixed while we increase our sales. So you're always going to have that variable, but if you can control your fixed costs, and we've been disciplined about doing that. Investment highlights, clean cap table, just under 110 million shares, no warrants, 9 million in stock options, 118.6 shares fully diluted. For a significant period of time, we were trading under book value. Lots of our peers trade at 3-4 times book. There's not a lot of value being given to our intellectual property. I can list 13 companies that are private equity funded that have that have market caps many times more ours that don't make a nickel of revenue, that are developing cementitious intellectual property, but have much higher valuations than us as a profitable company that's got world-class cement tech. So cash flows funding new products, no dilution to fund, competent and aligned management team committed to building shareholder equity on the balance sheet. I can't control the stock price, but within reason, I can control some things, and that is some discipline on our costing and putting money in the bank every quarter by controlling how much we spend on innovation. And so my commitment to our shareholders is we'll work really hard to build the balance sheet, and then the share price will have to look after itself. Our shares trade on 3 exchanges, TSX.V, the QB, and we trade on the Frankfurt. We are looking at the potential of moving to the Toronto Stock Exchange. We qualify in every way, except we don't have a 50 million market cap for companies in our sector. We did reclassify to clean tech from junior mining in the last year, and as a tier 1 issuer versus tier 2, that enables us to invest in both private and public companies with cash flow without exchange approval. That's my presentation, and if anybody has any questions for me, I think time's up. But if you want to get me during lunch, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has, and I appreciate that you gave the last half hour of your time to hear our pitch. Thank you.